Hey, it's W5HRO. It's been a little while. Happy summer. It's August, what is today? August 7th. Tuesday, no, I'm sorry. It's Thursday, August 7th. Sorry, Thursday. I don't know where the time goes. Being retired now, the days slip by too quick. But anyway, I decided to I was cleaning up the shack here a little bit here earlier this week, and I decided to start turning on the radios and stuff again, and I started listening, and the bands have been open. So I started getting on 17 meters off and on. Now, a couple of weeks ago, the band was dead for about several days, but it was coming open every now and then. But I was listening to a QSO on 15 meters yesterday. So I'm like, interesting. It seems like it's the hottest part of the summer, almost just past the hottest part of the summer. That it's the bands are starting to peak open a little bit. They're popping open, and they're peaking a little bit. But it's like short-lived stuff. The band's open and they shut down real quick. So you got to get in there when they're open. But I developed a problem. I was on 17 meters the other day talking to somebody. The guy came in. Was he in Oklahoma? Yeah, he was somewhere in Oklahoma, and I was talking to him just for, 2 or 3, brief transmissions back and forth, and I keyed down, and I realized something was wrong. I didn't have any, because what happened was the guy asked me, am I still there? And I looked over and I keyed up again. I realized I didn't have any power coming out. This amp started developing a problem, and right now I think it's just a tube. I did order another tube for this. I never did get any spare tubes for this. This is one of those RF parts. The guy put this in there probably back in the 90s. And I don't know, that's what I think it is. But this is what's been happening. Now, some of the Ameritrons will do this. When you first turn on the power switch, you'll see a little bit of plate current. And then when it'll eventually drop down when the filament gets hot. But these tubes, the filaments light up. I mean, look how quick that thing comes up. But look what the meter does. And then it's every day when I turn it on, that started happening, and it started holding on there longer and longer and longer. And I'm thinking, no, that's not right. This amp has never done that before, so that's why I know there's a problem. And my first thought was, well, it's that Zener in there, the Zener I have on the cathode to ground. But I checked it with the diode meter, and I'm seeing the voltage drop and the really high impedance the other direction. So I'm thinking, maybe when there's voltage on it, it breaks down, but I don't think that's what it is. I think it's just probably the tube. So I got a new tube on order, and it's going to be probably a couple weeks before I get it, but I'm going to pop it in here. And if that, solves the problem, then I'll just, I'm going to replace the meter lights and button it back down. I never did get in here and tune these inputs like I want. And I'm also, this one wire, right, where is it here? I just had the high voltage on this thing, so I wish I had a wooden stick to touch this thing with. I use my screwdriver, but with a plastic handle. But this is the 15 meter connection on this coil. This is the 10 meter coil, and they're tapping it for 15. So I just need to move it over one tap for 17 meters, and that should bring the power up. Probably 2 taps would be better, but I just want to bring it up a little, so I'm going to move that probably over to this next tap. And that'll bring the power up on 17, probably the full power. And maybe not losing on 15 that much, maybe not even at all. But the meter lights burned out a long time ago, those ones I put in. Now I do have some 12 volt lights, but I did find these a while back. And if I remember, weren't these 16 volt lights I had in here, and I dropped them down with a big resistor so they last, but they were something for train sets, and the lifespan on those were just really short, and they burn out. So I have these 16 volt bigger ones. I think these were supposed to be 16 volt lights, but I also have 12 volts. I got 12 volts of these too, but these are the bigger ones. What are these? I've had these for a long time now, and yeah, these are the 16 volt ones. Look at them. And they're pretty good. Yeah, see, these are bigger size. These are the size that were supposed to go in here. Remember, I had to put a little bit of that black RTV. And I need to go back and watch all my videos I did on this amp to try to remember exactly everything I did. I mean, I know I updated the plate choke in this thing to the one that's got the spacing between the windings like you need. And, you know, I replaced the caps here, the main ones, and then I never did. I do have the set of, I've got 150 mic black ones I was going to replace these can ones with, but what if it's, you know, if it's not the tube, then it could be the zener when the voltage is applied. And if it's not the zener, then what that could be is maybe one of these electrolytics is having trouble charging when it first gets turned on. Maybe one of them's getting too old, and that could be it too. Maybe I do need to go ahead and replace these caps. This was a 1980s vintage amp, and it was taken care of by the original owner. And I'm like, you know, these caps, these are those old, you know, that's an old style. The 125 mic was an old value that's no longer, that was a standard value that's no longer a standard value. Now it's what, 150? You got like 150s, what are they? 125s, or not 125s, but 133s or whatever they are. You just don't see 125 mic caps anymore. But these were that brand, and these looked like these were fairly new, so I was thinking they may still be good. But when I change that tube out, I'll take a look at the voltage on that zener. I'm going to turn this thing over next anyway after I do this video, and I'm going to see what the voltage looks like on the cathode. I'll just check from the zener to ground and see what it looks like. It may be fine. But anyway, that's kind of what I was doing. But anyway, but I'm going to get the new tube in there and see if that problem goes away, because that's what was happening. When it stopped working the other day in the middle when I was talking, that when I would key up, the current would come up to that static bias level, but there was nothing was happening. There was no modulation. Something wasn't, I think the tube is just breaking down. That tube I already knew was getting a little bit soft. It's probably just the tube. If not, it's the zener. If not, it's these caps. So it's one of the three. It'll be, I'll fix it. But I decided I better get this thing going and get it out of the way. I've been out around the property. I've been working all summer on the outside of the house. I cleaned up. We had the storage shed. It was built on the property, custom build, looks just like the house. So I'm starting to get most of the junk out of this garage shop. And I don't want to turn around, show you behind me, because it's still kind of messy. So, but once I get it all cleaned out, which is going to be probably here in a few more weeks, but it's been so hot that I've been having to work. I've been painting, replacing. There was some wood around our front door and the window, because that side of the house is the first side of the house that gets the hot morning sun, and all afternoon when it gets hot, then it comes around, then it's off of it. But the trim around the door, and there was some water damage because the caulk had broken down and stuff, so I was replacing the stuff around the door and the windows. But I've been painting, cleaning gutters around the house all summer. The problem is it got hot after we got the storage building installed, and I've been going around trying to get all this stuff done. Then I got to get out there and start working on my antennas too. That's going to be next. So let's see if I can't get this amp going here within the next 2 weeks, and I'll do one more video once I get it going and show you I got it back on the air, hopefully. Or I'll just show you. I'll probably do the video, then go in the shack next on the other side of that wall. Like if you remember, my shack's on the other side of that wall, the radio shack. So anyway, but I'll do one more video once I get this thing done, and tell you exactly what I found for certain in the end, and what I had to do to make everything work. One thing I wanted to do is I wanted to regulate the lights on these meters, because when you modulate, when the power starts, coming up on sideband, when you're modulating REM, as soon as you transmit and start talking, the lights dim way down, because it's not regulated, because they're controlling the relay in there and all that stuff with that same. It's a halfway supply with one electrolytic cap to ground's what it is, powering the relay and everything. So when you engage the relay, the voltage drops way down, and then it's dimmer. And then when you modulate it, it really gets dim. And I wanted to regulate it, but I don't know how. And I think too, when I bought these lights, I think if I remember, I bought these, I was going to put one on each because these light bulbs, believe it or not, these little lamps, each one of them draws quite a bit of current. And I was going to have to use 2 of these regulators. I think these are the ones I bought for the 12-volt lights. I was going to regulate it down and use the 12-volt lights instead of these, but I don't know yet. I may just put these 16-volt lights in here with just a smaller value resistor so it doesn't dim down as much when I'm modulating. Because it makes you think like the amp is dying and is struggling to put out power, but it's not. It's because that's an unregulated capacitor filtered supply is why. It's all capped. Electrolytic capped to ground. I mean, now what I could do is, but I don't think there's enough current to power those 2 regulators and the lights. That's the thing. I was going to put them on like a little circuit board, little perk board, and just stick it in there somewhere, you know, maybe put it over this hole. I drill a hole in the corner and slide it over there and put a nut on that or something, you know, and just have the regulators on that little board that power, you know, with the resistors to get the, you know, the lamps regulated. But I don't think that supply has enough current, that winding. It might. I could put a voltage doubler on it and then get it way up, but then that's going to, you know, and then maybe regulate it down. But I think I'd like to use 1 regulator, but a 1 amp regulator with, the only other thing I could do is I could put 1 small transformer and just build a separate little supply that when I turn on the power switch, it turns on that supply too to power the lights. I really don't want to do that though. I want to try to use the existing supply that's in there. It's just, you know, the voltage is high on idle, and when you key down, it drops. So that's the problem. Even with these newer lights with a smaller resistor in series to kind of help them last longer, it's still going to do it. So anyway, so that's 11 minutes here, almost 12 minutes on the video. 73s for now. Like I said, I'll do the next video when I get this thing all figured out for certain and get it all done. 73s.